Hi, I'm Greg King from Sterling High School in Sterling, Illinois. Today I'm here to talk to you about offensive line play in the inside belly or double dive series. When talking about offensive line play in any offensive line play, I don't care if it's in the double dive inside belly series like we run or anywhere, one of the quotes I always come back to is from Mike Berry, who right now is the offensive line coach for Detroit Lions, but at that time I believe he was at Colorado when I heard him first say this, and that is, blocking can be developed to a greater degree than any other phase of football because it is the most unnatural task. It requires patience and many hours of hard work, because there are more things to learn. And I think that's so true in offensive line play. So some of the things that we're going to talk about in here, I've learned from a lot of different coaches and kind of formulated our opinions and so forth. And hopefully it's some of the stuff that you can use from your youth program all the way to your high school level. One of the things we talk about for offensive line play is we give it the acronym of GOLF. Get off, leverage, and finish. We tell our kids, if you can do those three things, you can play in our system. You got to be able to get off the football, you've got to be able to leverage your opponent, and you've got to be able to finish them off when the time comes. So we talk a lot about the acronym of GOLF, and we'll talk about what that stands for and what that actually entails here as we go through this film. The get off. The get off portion of this, first of all, starts with a good stance. Now, for the inside belly series, many times this was a wing tee play and so forth. It's now evolved into, we run it out of our gun set as well. So no matter what offense you're running, your offensive lineman can execute this and your offense can execute this as well. First thing you start off with get off though is stance. Your feet. We want our feet shoulder width apart. We want a good base. We don't want them too wide. We don't want them too narrow. We want the weight on the inside of our feet. We tell our kids we want the weight there because this is where we're going to get the most traction. We've got the more cleats in the ground this way. That way our weight is not up on our toes either. If your weight's upon your toes, many times when you make contact with that opponent, you're going to slip and you're going to spin your wheels, so to speak. So we want the weight on the inside of the feet. We also want our feet straight across. We want our toes to be about even. Now we will allow certain kids to have a slight stagger, especially if they're in a three-point stance, because we allow our kids to get into a three-point or a four-point, whichever fits them best. In a four-point stance, we definitely want those toes even. We want them straight across. In a three-point stance, we'll let the dominant hand, the hand that's down, we'll allow that foot to slide back for the toe to instep relationship to allow that person to get the proper get off to get off the football. We want our knees. We want our knees straight ahead. We don't want our knees, there's a lot of times with young kids, you'll see the knees coming in or the knees going out. We want them straight ahead. We want power angles. We talk a lot about a Z in the knee. We want an angle in our ankles. We want an angle in our knees, and we want them in the hips as well. Those are the power angles. We want to try to keep those power angles as much as we can into our block when we're getting off into it. In our stance, we want our back flat. We want, we always talk about, a lot of times, be able to set something right on your back. We don't want, a hump in the back. You see a lot of kids, and that usually means we got to straighten their feet out a little bit, or maybe their hands are too close to their knees. So we'll straighten that out. We want their tail slightly lower than their shoulders. We want them coming out, not up. So we want to make sure that when that tail's a little lower, it can go out straight into the opponent then. Head is very important. We want to make sure our eyes are up. We want to make sure we're looking straight ahead. One of the things we always talk to our players about is when you come up to the line of scrimmage, before you get into your stance, you better educate yourself to what that defense looks like. You better look from left to right or right to left every play, and then when you get down in your stance, your eyes should be straight ahead. Also part of the get off is the takeoff. Okay? Just like a little baby, we teach our kids that first step. Our first step, what we tell our kids is, all it does is get you in position to block. That's all it's going to do. So if that guy's straight up, my first step's in accordance with that. If I've got to block back, my first step's got to be in accordance with that. If I've got a pass set, my first step's got to be in accordance with that. So the first step is got to get me into position to make that block. We talk about it being a quick 3 to 6 inch step. Now I give them a little leeway there. I tell you what, the quicker the kid is, the longer that first step can be. The slower kids, we tell some of our bigger linemen that aren't as quick, hey, you may just have to get that first step up and down as quick as you can. Whatever it is, it's got to be adjustable to yours, because one size doesn't fit all when it comes to linemen, and we know that. Okay, so that first step, it gets you in position to block 3 to 6 inches. On that first step, we want our chest still over our knees. We don't want to come up. We don't want to show that opponent our numbers. We want to make sure we're coming out with a flat back. Second step, we will talk about how we got to get that down before contact is made. It's got to be powerful. Okay, it's got to be powerful. It's got to be down on the ground. And then we'll take these two segments and we'll drill first step and second steps in a lot of different ways. And we'll take a look at some of those clips in a little while. But it's got to be quick and it's got to be powerful. First steps get you in position. Second steps where my power comes from. On the takeoff, we also on this get off, we want to make sure we're getting off the football, our eyes. We want to be able to look our block in. We're not going to lead with the head. You never lead with the helmet. Number one is a safety reason. There's been a lot of accidents that happen in a game of football just like anywhere. But the better technique you have, the eyes have to be up, that bows that neck back to make sure that you're not leading with your helmet. And it's just like anything else. We tell them if you're going to hit a baseball or a golf ball, if you take your eyes off of it before you make contact, you're not going to do very well. So we want to look that block in. We want to have eyes. And we talk about later on, we'll talk double teams. We want to make sure we've got an eye on one guy we're blocking and the next guy we may have to go to as well. So our eyes have got to be very powerful in our block as well. One of the things we also teach our linemen is to work with, on that takeoff, is their arms. On that first step, we want their arms cocking and reloading, because on that second step, we're going to bring them through and we're going to punch with them. Okay, we're going to punch with our hands, we're going to punch on the run. We want our hands and shoulder pads almost hit simultaneously with that defender, and our arms are going to be a part of that power coming through. The second part of the golf, okay, is the leverage, or the contact portion of the block. Leverage, we talk about two types of leverage. We talk about pad under pad, and we talk about inside leverage. With pad under pad, we always talk about how the low man wins. In a game of football, the lineman that can stay the lowest the longest, that person's usually going to win. Lineman, it's a lot of one-on-one battles in the trenches, let's get after it. Okay, the low man usually wins most of those wars. So we want to make sure we're pad under pad. Now, we realize too, in a goal line short yardage situation, what can happen is that defensive line, their whole job is to stay low and create piles. Well, in that case, we don't talk about pad under pad in a goal line short yardage situation. We talk about pad on pad, getting our shoulder pads on their pads and using the same techniques, which we'll get through, our weights on the inside and we're driving the same way. But now it's pad on pad in a goal line short yardage type situation instead of pad under pad. The other type of leverage we talk about is inside leverage. We want our hands to be inside. We want to punch our hands inside of the defenders. We talk about how it's a steering wheel inside of there. We want our hands and shoulders to hit at the same time. And we want to get our shoulders on that defender's chest as quick as we can. If we can get our hands and shoulders on that defender's chest and not allow separation, we talk to our kids about getting in their tie. We want them to smell that other opponent's armpits. We want them that close that if we can get our hands and chest in there that close, we're going to be successful in most of our blocks. Okay? But we got to remember, we got to keep working on this and working on this, because the defenders are looking for the separation. So we got to make sure we're really getting inside, really squeezing hard, and going from there. Knees. In this contact phase of the block, our knees are very important as well. Our play side knee, whichever way that ball's going, our first step, now I tell our kids 90% of the times our first step is going to move with that play side foot. He's got to get it up and down. Second step, okay, got to come down with power. Now, when we make contact, what's got to happen is our play side knee, we have got to drive it to the hip of that defender. Okay, if that defender's hip widens, we got to widen it to his hip. Backside knee, we've got to bring it to the crotch. And we talk to our kids, not about allowing separation, about keeping those power angles as long as we can. We talk hard on blocking is really just bringing that backside knee. If you can really bring that backside knee, get vertical push with it, okay, you're going to be successful in your block. So with front side knee, we're trying to take it to the hip. The back side knee, we're trying to bring it to the crotch, and we're trying to get movement as much as we can. The finish part of the block, we want to sustain pressure for 3 to 5 seconds. We want to keep this balance and pressure. We want to make sure that we're pad on our pad, we're inside leverage, our hands are inside, we're fighting for every inch we can. The weight is on the inside of our foot. All right, we want more cleats in the ground as we can possibly get. One of the things, that we were taught young in our careers was that in order to get a good block, you've got to roll your hips into the block. Well, we teach our kids not to. I never tell my kids, hey, roll your hips into the block, because what happens then is you lose your leverage. You lose a lot of that power. It's just like if you were going to push a car, because let's face it, blocking is pushing, all right? It's pushing with power. If we had a stalled car and we were going to push that car, okay, we want to keep our hips back as far as we can and get the other leverage into it. If we roll our hips and bring our hips right up to the car, we don't have much power. Now, will the hips come? Sure, the hips will come. In a natural block, the hips will come through, but it's a natural progression. If you force kids, I really truly believe, if you force kids to, hey, get your hips, throw your hips into it, what will happen is they'll come straight up, they'll lose the power angles in their ankles, knees, and hips, and therefore losing a lot of their power into the block and can't give that movement off the line of scrimmage. Part of the finish now is also turning a stalemate into a win. Let's face it, defense have good players too. So when you get in there and it's a stalemate, okay, and all of a sudden that defensive player starts to, reach for the ball carrier or, is trying to get off your block, that's when you can turn a stalemate into a win by finishing it hard. We talk to our kids, every time we have a block, on the boards or on a 20-yard drill, we talk about finishing it, exploding your knees, exploding your hips, exploding your arms, and giving that last final push to push that guy off of the block and get him off balance so he's not able to make that play. So in our acronym of golf, it's get off, it's leverage, and it's finish. Some of the things we talk to our kids about are the do's. What we want our offensive linemen to do. We want our offensive linemen to get off the ball. We want to be quick off the ball. We want to get our first step, second step down, get into that defender on that second step. We want to give our second effort as much as we can. I talk to our kids about, we've got to make sure at the point of attack we're blocking, hard in those down defenders and those linebackers. But let's get downfield. Let's throw the big block. Let's get downfield after that. Backside guys, let's hustle down. Let's get across the field to make a block to spring us for the big play. We talk about adjusting to the opponent's scheme and alignment. That first step is so important. If they're giving us, if we're an offensive tackle and that guy's a 5 technique, okay, he's sitting on our outside shoulder. Our footwork has got to be in accordance with that. If we're running our inside belly series, he's sitting in a 5 technique. My first step has got to get in a position to block, and I've got to take him on an angle now to get him out of that hole. Whole different setup now if he's in a 4 technique. If he's lying straight up on me, and now he's got a 2-way go, my footwork better be in accordance with that. If he's on my inside in a 4-eye, my footwork's got to be in accordance with that. I've got to be able to adjust to the play, to the scheme that we have called with my blocking schemes, with my blocking style, with my blocking technique. I want to make sure I'm in good football position. Okay, what's a good football position? Well, we want to be in a position with power. We want our hips, our knees, and our ankles bent. We don't want to ever be standing straight up. We want to make sure we've always got leverage. We want to make sure we've always got balance. In the old days, we would, get our, I was an old wing T guy. We'd have our elbows up, and many times guys would get off blocks, and our guys would fall down because they wouldn't have the proper balance. We work hard on balance as well with that. And we always talk about accelerating and bringing the knees. That backside knee is so important. Whatever block you're performing, if you can bring that backside knee, you're going to get movement. You've got a chance for a successful football play. Some of the don'ts that we tell our kids, some of the do nots. One of them is we don't want to lunge or overextend. Okay, what happens? Many times you'll see linemen lunging or they'll get their bodies overextended. Well, what's causing that? Well, one, we believe too, if you lead with your hands too much, if your hands are too far in front of your body, it's going to bring your hips with you. Okay, and we feel if you bring your hips with you, you're rolling your hips in too soon, now you're going to lose a lot of power into your block. Too big a first step. One of the first things, we talk about a 3 to 6 inch step. You tell kids, and they'll get down that first step drill, and the first thing they'll do is they'll take a first step that's, foot and a half, 2 feet, 3 feet, and they really overextend themselves. And now they've lost all their power, they've lost all their balance. So we really work hard at getting that first step down properly. And then also too, we talk about head up or down. We want that as eyes up. Okay, head goes down, you go down. We've also talked about, the problems with your head is down when you're making contact. You have a chance of injuring yourself tremendously. So we really want that head up when we're making contact. We don't want to lean or commit too early. Okay, we want to make sure everything's the same. If we get a block to the inside, we don't want to be leaning there as well. We don't want to be slow off the ball. And one of the things we never want to do is we never want to sacrifice contact. Okay, we want to make sure we're making contact as hard as we can with that defender. Okay, so whatever it is, if you have a kid that, his technique isn't the great, but he makes great contact, I think that can overcome things just as much. Now, we have a lot of different blocks that we use, okay, but really everything comes off of one block. It's the drive block. Everything to us is the drive block. We'll talk about down blocks. We'll talk about double teams. We'll talk about trap blocks and things like that, or out blocks or fan blocks. Everything to us is still a drive block. I think if you teach kids that there are all these kinds of different blocks, with especially young kids, they get a little overwhelmed. Really, all it is, we have to go back to the first thing. All it is, is your first step gets you in position to make that block, whatever it is. So we talk about everything coming off the drive block. The footwork may be a little bit different, but once you get there, it's still a drive block. One of the big first things we teach besides a drive block is the next phase of it, which is a double team. When a double team, we're looking at getting movement off the line of scrimmage. We want to knock that down defender back. Okay? We want to knock him vertically back. Then what we want to be able to do is once we've secured that down defender, knock them vertically back, we want to make sure we get to the second level defender. We want to get to the linebacker. Okay, in a lot of our inside belly schemes, there's going to be a double team maybe at the point of attack, especially if that defender's pretty good. We want to be able to knock him back, get to a second level defender as well. Now, how we do this and how we teach that, in the old wing T schemes, where the double dive really came from and so forth, they talked about post and lead. And I'll be honest with you, I could never remember which one was post and lead. Okay, so what we've done for our kids is we divided it up into a drive block and a finish block. And I think that makes more sense than anything to our kids. There's going to be a drive man and there's going to be a guy finishing them off. And we'll talk about that here as we go through here. The drive block, okay? Let's say it's a tackle tight end. It's a tackle tight end combination. And we're going to double team that 5 technique, and we're looking to get movement on him and get to the inside linebacker as well. The drive man in this scheme, if the 5 techniques on the outside shoulder of the tackle, he is considered the drive man. He is going to drive that guy. That tight end could slip and fall. Okay, and how many times have we heard this? Well, I thought I was getting help on a double team. We don't stand for that. You've got him in a drive block. You have got to perform your block like that guy isn't even there. So everything, that 5 technique, I've got to get out. I want it's a right shoulder block. I want to make sure my footwork is there. Footwork will take me to it. I got to get the contact. I've got to get my leverage. I've got to finish him just like I was the only one there. Okay? So all those principles are the same. The tight end, in this case, in our scenario here, where the tight end tackler double teaming that 5 technique, okay, his job is the finish. Okay? He is the one that's going to help finish off this defender. What his footwork has got to be, it's going to be at a 45-degree angle. He's got to get hip to hip with that offensive tackle as quick as he can. Okay? Same way with the offensive tackle. His footwork is probably going to be at a 45-degree too if that guy's out there. And their job is to get hip to hip on that 5 technique. They got to get their hips together. One of the first things defensive linemen are taught to break a double team is to split that double team. We don't want that to happen. So they've got to get hip to hip. So the finish man, the tight end, has got to aim for the hip of the defender. We talk about really working to keep the shoulders square to the line of scrimmage. You know, many times what will happen is that tight end will turn his shoulders coming to that block. Well, we can never get to the second level then, because in order to get to that second level, he's got to turn his shoulders back. So we want that tackle and tight end to come together and get a vertical push so that one of them can come off on that linebacker. When that tight end is after his footwork and he's making contact, he's looking for the hip of that defender. If he can get his hands and shoulders on that hip, he can control that defender. And what we talk about is feeding him to the drive man. All right, that offensive end is going to feed him so that tackle can take over the block and they can get vertical on the second level defender. Okay, so that tight end, that finish guy, he's coming down, he's looking right at that hip. His eyes are focusing on that hip of the down guy. If for some reason that hip went away, that defensive lineman was on a slant to the inside, we teach our tight ends now to get vertical as quick as they can. Okay? Because that hip goes away, there's something else coming. And so a hip goes away, you climb the ladder and get vertical. Now we discussed this in a tackle tight end. It very well could be center guard. It very well could be guard tackle, depending on what the front is that we're seeing in the play that we have called. But one guy is going to be the drive, one guy is going to be the finish. And we work hard, very hard in our individual time working on double teams, because what are we working on really? We're still working on the basic drive block. Now, what if the defender we're going to try to double team is a gap player? He's right in the middle, so it's hard to tell who is the drive man, who's going to be the finish. Okay? Well, in this case, if the defender is a gap player, what we do is both men are drive men. They're both responsible for him. Now, who is going to be the finish? Who is going to finish that off, and who's going to try to come off on the second level defender? Well, that's going to be difficult to say, because what's the movement on the line of scrimmage going to be like? Do we get good movement? Is the guy going to slide one way or the other, the defender? Or better yet, what's the movement of the second level defender? Is he coming over the top? If he comes over the top, then the backside guy will be coming. If the guy comes on, if the linebacker steps up and comes underneath, then the other guy will. So it all depends on what the movement of the second level defender is going to be, as who's going to be the drive man and who's the finish man. And we'll look at that on some clips as well to make sure you can understand this concept. One of our big blocks that we see is an out block or a fan block. Our tackle and tight ends are very proficient in this because of the fact in our inside belly series, in a 4-4 front, we'll get a 7 technique on the inside shoulder of the tight end, and we'll get an overhang defender, outside linebacker. And what it'll be is the footwork's different. It's still a drive block to us. The out block or fan block, you must step with that near foot towards your defender. Remember, first step does nothing more than get you in position to block. You're going to aim for the defender's inside number. You want those eyes on the number. You're going to look that block in. And what you're going to try to do is widen that hole. You're going to try to get those guys, we talk about a train track. You want to take that guy on that vertical angle right there, as if there was a train track right there, and you're the train, and you're trying to move that, that cow off the track, so to speak. Like I said, we use this with our 1-2 out scheme. One of the other blocks we use is what we call a down block, which is very similar to the fan block, except we're coming to the inside. And one of the things you really have to stop now is you have to stop that penetration. Okay, we will step with our near foot. So if we're down blocking to our inside, to our right, we're just going to rotate our heel. We're going to step with that near foot. Now, we're not going to step upfield. One of the big problems, I think, especially with young players, when you talk about get off, get off, get off, and now he's got a down block, his first step many times will go upfield. If you have to down block on somebody and you step upfield, you're never going to get him, because that defensive guy is going to penetrate and you're not going to be able to stop his penetration. So we want that heel to rotate. We want the eyes to go to the defender's hip. Okay? If that hip goes upfield, in other words, he's just trying to make a vertical charge as quick as he can, we are going to strike, and we're going to get our head across and roll that guy to the inside. So we're actually going to, if we're down blocking to our right, we're going to try to get our head across, we're going to get our left shoulder pad on him and take him down to the inside. If that hip comes toward us, okay, it doesn't go upfield, but it comes toward us now, he's slanting into us, now it just turns into almost a 1-2 in block for that, whoever's coming down. It's just like a fan block to the inside now. But we really work hard on making sure we get that head across, bring that backside shoulder, because more than likely we're going to see that defender trying to get vertical, trying to create penetration to try to get in our backfield so we can't get our meshes and things for our inside belly series. One other type of block that we'll use, another type of block we use, are pulling. We use a 3-point, we also use a 4-point. I don't care what type of stance you use, you've got to be able to move in all directions. Whether it be a pass block, whether it be a pull, whether it be a backside scoop or anything, you've got to be able to move in any direction that you can. As far as a trap block is concerned, we use the first step, second step method to where we step first with our play side foot in the direction we're pulling. We just basically rotate the heel, open up our hips. Okay, so we're going to get out as quick as we can. We're going to get that first step down. The key to a good puller is that he gets that second step down with that outside foot. He has got to get that second step down as quick as he can to get his momentum going. What we try to teach our guys too is we want that inside foot always to be gaining ground into the line of scrimmage. So many times when you're pulling, you're trapping, in our cross game, our quick inside traps, what will happen is that our offensive lineman will pull and actually go straight down or even get depth. And what happens, a good defensive lineman is going to always make the play because we're not getting into him. We want to make sure that our inside foot is always gaining ground into the line of scrimmage. So we're coming into the line of scrimmage. It's easier to come back. All right, so we want to make sure we're coming into the line of scrimmage. We always talk about eyes in the hole. We want our eyes coming into the hole as much as we can. That'll take care of a good defender with good technique. One of the things that's really, with high school linemen too is, and especially young linemen, even in your junior tackle programs or whatever, when they're trapping, they want to try to uncoil. They want to try to get their whole body into the block. And what can happen is while they're doing that, the defender hits them, and then they're in trouble. All right, so we always talk about aiming 5 yards through that defender to where our offensive lineman is blocking through that defender on his way through to another guy. Another type of pull, besides in our trap game, is our boot pulls, which is a big part of our inside belly double dive series. So we want to be able to move all directions. A boot pull is a little different. And it takes some time, especially if a kid's in a 4-point stance. You really got to make sure that kid opens up that front side hip and basically drop steps at a 45-degree angle. Second step, we talk about driving over the top and getting depth. And he's also going to get depth with that third step. We want them back about 4 yards. And when they're doing that, they're getting their eyes on their contact man. In the contained in the bootleg part of the belly series, he has got to get his eyes on that outside contained guy. Is that guy coming upfield, try to keep contained, or is he coming hard where we can log him? And then off that 4 steps, when we get depth, he can really get his eyes on that, and when he makes contact, and keep driving, because everything comes off that drive block. Now, what causes some blocking failures? Number one, you got to start at a poor stance. Okay, make sure we try to get in our stances. We try to get 50% of the weight in a 4-point stance on the hands and the feet. At the most, 40 on the hands and 60 on the feet, depending on our kid, depending on the nature of it. Another blocking failure is caused by not getting off the ball. We really concentrate on getting off the ball as quick and as hard as we can. Ignorance of assignment. We make sure that through our practice plans, through inside drills, outside drills, half line, that assignment is never going to be a question. Lack of contact. We talked about, a lot of things can be handled by contact. Poor technique. As long as that kid's got contact, he's got a chance to be successful. So we want to talk about punching on the run, getting our shoulder pads and hands into our block at the same time. We want our shoulder pads and hands inside that frame of the defender as quick as we can, not allowing any separation. We want our feet moving on contact. A lot of times you'll see a kid with great contact, but his feet aren't moving on contact because he stopped them. So we work hard. Whenever we're doing our blocking drills, he makes contact, those feet are going. Weight's on the inside of the feet, and you're just digging for every inch of ground you can get. And another problem with blocking failures is not reading the alignment of the defender. Knowing that if a guy's in a 5 technique, he's probably only got a 1-way go. If a guy's in a head-up technique, he's got a 2-way, and we got to make sure of that alignment, what's happening, and making sure we get our proper footwork down in time to make our block. Now, some of the drills that we run, and we'll look at some of the film for these different drills. We'll start off, number one, we talked about good football position, okay? And what we talk about, we kind of borrowed it from the movie Happy Gilmore. We talk about our happy place, okay? And that's bending the knees, bending the ankles, just like a good football power position. And now what we'll do is we'll take a look at each one of these drills after we look at it. This is our happy place drill. All we're going to do is we're going to train our muscles to bend and be in a good football position. And you can really make this burn a lot. You talk to them, you remind them of the different techniques you got to use during it. But at the same time, we want eyes up. We're really training our body to stay low. Just like in the movie Happy Gilmore, we're in our happy place. Linemen are happy, or make me happy when they're in this place. Right in here. All they're just bending down, getting a good football position, really burns those legs. And that's what, good lineman, that's what's going to happen. You're going to have those legs burning. Eyes should be up, looking straight ahead. Next drill we'll look at is a power walk. We've got to be able to make sure we're moving in that happy place. So we'll talk about a power walk, pounding our feet in the ground. We'll talk about pound the ground, making sure weight's on the inside, making sure we're being forceful with our arms. Okay, so let's take a look at a power walk. Okay, now we're power walking. This is a power walking. This is one of the drills we do. We've got to be able to move in our happy place, so we'll do a lot of this. Weight on the inside. I want their elbows closer to their body. We don't want their elbows that far out. We want them rubbing those love handles. We want them to come with power. Right in there. Nice and low, nice and good football position. Coming back now. Really pumping the arms. See how many times they can get down there. I really like the way they pump and try to get as many as they can. Weight on the inside. We don't want their knees going to the inside. Part of our get-off part of our drills is our first and second step. Okay, first step drill. We'll line them up on lines. That way they can actually see exactly, how far that first step is going to be. And even, brave, I'll even put my foot right where they're supposed to be down in front of it. Sometimes you get those young kids, they'll step you on with those cleats. So you really got to be careful with that. But you really got to be confident in what they're doing. They've got to be confident how far that 6-inch step really is. Second step drill, what we do is what's kind of a continuation of the first step drill. What we actually do now is we have the person behind them in line grab the foot that they're going to step with second. They get a two-hand grip on it. First step, we'll break it down first of all. First step, 6 inches, then we'll rip that second step out. And then we'll do it full speed as well. And they really got to rip that back foot out of their hand, of the defender, and get that on ground as quick as possible. So let's take a look at some of the first step and second step drill film clips. Okay, here's our second step drill. We have a guy grabbing his ankle. On the second step, he's going to try to rip it out. First step, it's imperative that you still get that first step down, come out. We want the back flat when they're coming out. And we can break this down and take it step by step if we want. But here he is. He's coming out, two hands on it, grip it, rip it out. Okay, here we are going to step with our left foot right there. He's going to step here. He's going to rip that step out. We're breaking it down. Okay, and you really want to make sure what this helps them do is make sure they don't make a false step. It's just a two-step process. Boom, right there, not bad. Rip it out. Okay, we really like those shoulder pads being over the top. All right, here we go. Here's what I'm doing, making sure that first step is 6 inches. I'll walk up to them, put my foot right there. You got to be careful with some guys. They sometimes forget about that first step when they know they've got to take two. Gripping it hard right in there. He has to rip that knee out of there, get vertical with it. Okay, real good clip right here. Watch those guys getting straight off the ball, ripping that knee over the top, getting off. We'll also then talk about power walk with pressure. We'll do a power walk, and this is really good, especially if you have no pads on and you're working with your kids, in times when you can't wear pads or something like that. The defender will walk up, and he will put, in a fit position, he'll put his hands on the offensive lineman's shoulders. And he'll really make sure he puts a lot of pressure on him, so the defense has really got to work. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to make that defender fit up and power walk with pressure. Okay, and we'll even a lot of times with pads, we'll still start them off in a fit position now, where I'm underneath and I'm blocking, but we're just going to power walk him with pressure. So they really get a feel of how it's supposed to be, how their muscles are supposed to bend during this time. Now you may not get this all the time in a game, you may not ever get it, but the kids can feel it and they can feel what a successful block is really going to look like. Okay, this next drill is power walking with pressure, and this is done, you can do this without pads, you can do it with pads. Okay, defensive guy walks up, he's going to put his hands on the shoulders of the offensive guy. All right, offensive guy is in his happy place. He's down in there getting nice and happy. Now, on cadence now, what this offensive guy is going to do, he's going to power walk. He's going to get his arms into the action. The defense is going to put pressure against him. We want the weight on the inside. We want the Z in the ankles, Z in the knee, and the Z in the hips. Remember, we don't want their hips to come through at all. Okay? So we're going to take him, and he's going to drive him back, and then we'll just switch it up and come back the other way. You got to really watch out, though. Try to take a false step here. You want that guy leaning forward a little bit, and you want that power. You want him a lot quicker, pushing it down. We're just kind of making sure we're getting the feel for it right there. And we really want him to pound the ground as hard as we can. Look at him pound the ground, pound the ground, pound the ground. Okay? As a coach, you got to make sure you're coaching that up all the time. Okay, here's the same drill. Now we're going to look at it from behind. When we're watching from behind, we want to make sure their elbows aren't out. We want them tucked in. We want their hands inside. If you really coach your elbows inside, the hands will be inside. Okay, we want the hands to stay in the framework of this guy's body right here as we go through. Pound the ground as quick as you can. Now, as you see, as you go, your guy is going to get higher. We want them to make sure they stay down as low as they can for as long as they can. One of the other drills we'll use a lot is a switch drill. This really teaches the kids how to sink their hips and get their hips into the block. And we'll do this in the summertime, in our contact periods where we can do some summertime stuff. And guys with spring practice can do this in our spring drills. This can be done with pads or without pads. Okay, what we do is we fit up one defender. He'll be the offensive guy, and he'll take that defensive guy. He's going to put some pressure on him. He's going to take him back. The coach then yells switch as loud as he can. The defender now becomes the offensive guy. He's got to release. He's got to sink his hips, and he's got to get back underneath that other guy. Okay. In the meantime, the offensive guy is going to stand up, get away, so that defender allows that defender to roll his hips back underneath and drive him back. And we'll usually do this a couple times. It not only shows a great how to get those hips into the drill, it's always a pretty good conditioner because the kids will work this. And as you see, and as you recognize, you coaches recognize that whenever kids get tired, their technique goes. So you really can concentrate on some of those techniques in a condition where they're going to be tired. So let's take a look at some of the switch drill clips. Here's a switch drill. We fit up an offensive lineman with the defensive lineman. Get him in a fit position, eyes on the number. He's going to drive him back. When the coach yells switch, this defender is now going to get off. He's going to have to resync his hips, get the Z in the ankles and the knees and the hips. Now he's going to drive him back until the coach yells switch again, and then we just keep going back and forth. This drill is very good. We do it in the summertime without pads. It can be done with pads. Either way, it's a good drill to teach the hip release, making sure we're getting our hips into our block, keeping them back, and it also is a good conditioner. Okay, driving them back, switch. Call comes right there. He's taking it back. Don't like the elbows up there. Got to have the elbows down. Watch the hips. Good conditioner, as I said, and really we're focusing on just the hip. Okay, here's a view of the switch drill from behind, the other way. Tighten it up right there. Good job right there. Switch, switches his hips, gets back underneath, now he drives. Coach yells switch, does it again. You're really working on that, getting that hips down. Okay, we like his hips to be a lot lower than they were right there. Another drill we talked a lot about in a lot of our different tapes was just basic board drills. Right shoulder, left shoulder. You can move those boards at a vertical to work your 1-2 out. You can move them even farther to work down blocks or whatever. Boards are very good because it also teaches our kids how to keep a proper base in the game of football. Many times what you'll see guys do is they'll bring their feet in, because it's more comfortable to run that way. When we got to teach linemen, we talked about Mike Berry's quote, it's an unnatural. You have to teach linemen to run with a wider stance. Okay, and that's hopefully what some of these drills like our happy place and power walks are going to be doing. And so when we do board drills live, we'll make sure we have a board between them. We also work on a bad position block. All right, what happens if we're in a bad position? How are we going to get back into good position? Because everything is in a perfect world in the game of football. So we'll set up our kids, in a bad position, and now what they have to do is they really have to work their hips and work their feet to get them in position. All right, so if I'm in a bad position, I got my right shoulder, but it's got to be a left shoulder. How am I going to do that? Well, I got to bring my backside knee to the crotch, and I got to bring my front side knee to the play side hip. So we'll put them in bad position and work that so that they have to make sure that they really work their feet, really work their hips to get that vertical movement. All right, we're in a bad position here. Okay, we want this actually to be a left shoulder block. But right now where he's at on us, it's not. The defensive guy's done a good job. Now what we do is we fit him up in this position, and now we really work on footwork to get back to where we need to be. The key to this drill is that his play side knee, which is his right knee here, has got to work to the hip of the defender, and his backside knee has got to work to the crotch. We always talk about bringing the back knee, bringing the back knee. Well, this drill really has to work on that because you really got to bring your back knee and force your eyes and shoulders to the other number as well. So let's take a look at a couple bad position block drills here. So we fit them up, working it hard to the outside and getting vertical with him. Okay, fit him up. He's in a bad position. He's got to get his left shoulder into his chest. It's not there yet. Now he's got to work it. Okay, and he's got to work those knees up. Right knee to the hip, left knee to the crotch. Bad position, work it, work it, work it. Squeeze it. It helps me really squeeze that backside shoulder down into the chest too. Working it, working it, working it. Right there. Get them walled off then. One of the best drills we've incorporated over the years is a 20-yard drill. One of the things we'll do is the defender will be right across from him, and our offensive lineman's got to come off just like he's on the boards, and he's got to drive that guy for 20 yards. The defender's giving pressure, but also what the defender's doing is getting off to the right, and he's getting off the block to the left. And what this teaches our offensive linemen is just what they're going to see in a game, is that the defender's going to try to get off to, let's say, to the right. If that defender's going to try to get off to that defender's right, I've now got to take my footwork to match his accordingly. I've got to take my left knee and match it to his hip. I've got to take my backside knee and bring it to his crotch to straighten it back out. Well, maybe he's going to go the other way now. So now I work it. And right when we get to that 20 yards, it's a finish now. Now we push as hard as we can. We try to get that defender off balance. And we'll do the same type of thing in a 10-yard segment as well, and we're really working for the quickness off the ball. We're working for maybe a 1-2 out 10-yard track either way. And it really puts things, so they're bringing it quicker and quicker, and we're not looking so much for the defender getting off the block. So let's take a look at some clicks with the 20-yard drill and the 10-yard drill. Next drill. This next drill is our 20-yard drill. We don't block sleds anymore. We block men. In a game, they don't let you block sleds. So we work hard on blocking against someone as live as we can every day. And this 20-yard drill has really become our staple. Offensive guy going to fire off just like he were on the boards. Defensive guy, you really got to coach him up. Defensive guy's got to give pressure. And he's also got to move side to side to make this guy move side to side. What this defensive guy is simulating is he is simulating a ball carrier running one way or the other and him reaching off and making the tackle. All right, so what our offensive lineman's got to do, he's got to feel that pressure move, and he's got to adjust his footwork and his arms to where they need to be. So let's take a look at some 20-yard blocks here. Now remember, at the end of every block, too, we talk about a finish. So it comes off nice and hard, punch is right there. Now he's just got to work his footwork. He's got to work his footwork. And we try to get 4 or 5 guys going at a time, and they got to run at 20 yards, finish them off. Same thing here, knocking back, working that footwork. See how we're overextended here. A lot of times in this drill, you'll see them, especially when they get tired, they'll get overextended. Okay, punch right there, He's got to get his elbows down, got to get his hands inside more. The defender's doing a nice job of making him work side to side, but we want to keep that pressure on them as much as we can. Same thing here, coming off low, hard, and quick. Punch on the run. Boom, right there. It needs to be a harder punch. Right there, moving the feet, moving the feet. You got to bring that backside knee. Bring that backside knee. Get a good punch right there, a little too high. Now, as the drill goes on, we talk about not wanting the hips to come forward. They'll come forward sometimes as you go on. Right there. 20-yard drill right there is a good example of it. Finishing at the end. Same thing there, nice and low. Coming off, driving them back, bringing the knees, finishing at the end. Wider base. We need wider base out of both those. When they get them on the run, their feet will come in a little bit. Good, hard, quick off the ball right there, finishing at the end. Watch hands get in there, eyes on the number, get the shoulder pads in there. No separation whatsoever. 10-yard drill. The 10-yard drill in this segment, what we're going to work on is really our 1-2 out blocks, or our out blocks out of our guys. So he's sitting off in a 5 technique off to the side, and our footwork has got to be accordingly. Okay, if we go upfield with that foot, we're in trouble. All right, so we want to out block. We want to get our eyes right on that inside number right there and right there. And we want to work them at an angle now, widening the hole for us. So when we watch this, watch the footwork, and let's make sure we're getting our eyes on their number and working hard at 10 yards now. And then what we're going to do, we should finish it off with a nice push at the end. Coming off, getting off the ball quick right there, widen them right there, finish them at the end. Right here, watch, getting off quick right there, widening that guy. If he tries to come back to the inside, you got to adjust your footwork accordingly. Watch the footwork down here, right there, perfect. Right there on that inside number driving. Okay, 10-yard drill going this way. Now we're going to switch it up and go the other way with it. Try to get movement that way. Get on that number, drive them across on a train track. We want them on a train track. Right there, get movement, get movement, get movement, finish them. Give them that final push at the end, simulating that guy trying to get off the block. And the last drill work, we'll go through our double teams. Of our drive-finish combination between our guys. Really work at the hips of our guys and the footwork. You know, not always perfect, but we're always trying to strive to get to that perfection. Their hips are getting together, shoulder to shoulder, working on that vertical movement in a drive-finish combination to come off on that second-level defender. Let's look at some clips of that as well. Okay, next segment we're going to work on is our double teams. Okay, we get a double team between these two guys on this guy right here. Okay, play is going to the right. So one guy's got to be the drive man. In this case, he'll be the drive man. He'll come off, block. He'll be the finish. Footwork, we got to get hip to hip. And if once we get movement, we want this guy to try to come off on linebacker. One of the things that'll happen is your guy, oh, I got to get to the linebacker right now. No, the most important thing is the double team first. You got to secure first level before you can secure the second level back here. So let's take a look at some double team blocks here. Watch right there, shoulder square, come off. Okay? We really want him to get hip to hip on that as much as we can so there's no penetration. Same thing here, we're going to get hip to hip. He wants to come off second level. Turn his shoulders too much. When you turn your shoulders, now you can't get to that linebacker as much. Okay, here we go, good double team. Head down, he went down. He's got to make sure he forces that head up. Okay? Show you the good clips and the bad clips. Right there, good job of taking over that guard, taking over that block right there. Right there, get hip to hip, come off, okay? They come off late, that's fine. I would rather them come off too late than too early. Hip to hip, too much separation there. That's a bad rep right there. Okay, here we go. Another double team right here, coming right there. Good movement, comes off well on the linebacker right there. Didn't come off too early. That's what we're looking for. Same thing here, come off. Perfect right there. Knock that guy back. That's what we're looking for. Okay, this is the thing going the double team going the opposite way now. Here we go, guard coming off right there. Got to take a better angle. Okay, double team. Let's get hip to hip, drive, finish combination. Good, perfect, right there. That's what we're looking for. Get hip to hip, come off, takes it over. Linebacker got over the top too quick. That's going to happen. Right there, comes off better. Okay, watch this time. Here we go. Get a nice movement on that guy. Guy takes it over. Stay with him on that block right there as he comes off. Edit from right there. Start from here. Go. Right there. Boom. Perfect. Right there. Got to come off that linebacker a lot harder. I'd like to thank Coach's Choice and all the coaches I've worked with to help with this, making this film on offensive linemen in the Double Dive series. I'd like to thank my family as well for allowing me the time to, to coach in a profession that I really love. Thank you once again.